Aquí vamos para la aventura de hoy.
Welcome aboard. I'm getting it back too. Good morning. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard.
Sí, donde ahorita.
Dale, que tú le eches la cámara. Careful across the dock. Sir? Good morning.
We started out on the Talkeetna River. We made that sharp right-hand turn that put us on the Susitna River. The third river in the area is actually the Chulitna River. And if you look just to our left, you're going to see kind of what we call a seam line. You see two very distinct colored rivers. The kind of a grayer blue over there to the left, that is the Chulitna River. And then this more brown brackish water over here at the right is the Susitna River. Now, all three of these rivers merge just south of Talkeetna. They form one big river. We call it the Big Sioux. Now, the Big Sioux flows all the way down to the Cook Inlet and out to the Pacific Ocean. We do get all 5 species of Pacific salmon into these waters every summer. Our kings are already running. We've got sockeyes in the river. Soon following them will be chums. Later in the season, we're going to see our pinks and silver salmon. And we're going to tell you more about those fish later in our trip. Now, we also have local fish that call these rivers home all year round. Those local resident fish are dolly varden, Arctic grayling, burbot, whitefish, and some very beautiful rainbow trout. So this river is full of life. Now, you see the current running pretty swift this morning. This is normal. This current runs about 8 to 10 miles an hour. As we're navigating up the Susitna River today, we're actually gaining elevation. We gain about 10 feet every mile we go up the river. The Susitna River itself is just over 300 miles long from the glacier that feeds it all the way down to the Cook Inlet, 17th biggest river in the country. Now, there's only one establishment in all those miles with beautiful scenery, abundant wildlife. There is no other establishment except for the little town of Talkeetna. So Talkeetna is a pretty special place. Now, all three of these rivers being glacially fed, they run very cold, 36 to roughly 38, 39 degrees Fahrenheit. If you want a polar plunge, we can drop you off on the Chulitna River over there. It runs the coldest at a brisk little 36 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, the colors of these rivers, you might be wondering why they're different colors. They're each fed by different glaciers, and each glacier has a different geology underneath it. And when those glaciers move, it grounds up all the rocks underneath it into a fine sediment called glacial silt. It's about the consistency of flour, and it's so light, in fact, that it actually stays suspended in the water. So when it comes down, it's its own unique color because of that geology. So pretty awesome, isn't it? Now, enough about my rivers, because I'm going to tell you more later. I want to point out where Denali would be if you could see it today. Unfortunately, it is under a veil of clouds. If you look to see that big bunch of trees at about 11 o'clock off the bow, Denali stands just behind that, about 60 miles away from us from right here. As the beaver flies, stands Denali at 20,310 feet in elevation. And I'm going to hand the mic over to Alice, and she's going to tell you more about some other unique individuals other than yourselves that are here this summer to take advantage of Denali.
Yeah, so a lot of you have probably heard that Talkeetna is also referred to as the gateway of Denali, because all the climbers that come from all over the world to climb the mountain, they have to start right here in our small community. Since Mount Denali is located in a national park, you have to have a permit if you want to climb the mountain. Every year we give out up to 1,200 climbing permits. I called the mountaineering ranger station this morning, and they update those numbers every day. As of right now, we have 948 people registered to climb the mountain. At this time, there are 232 people on the mountain. 653 people have completed their climb for this climbing season. Now, in prior years, the National Park Service used to announce the number of people that have reached the summit throughout the climbing season. This year, they decided not to do that because they discovered over the years that a lot of the climbers get too fixated on those numbers and they're taking risks that they shouldn't be taking. And to us, a good climbing year means we have no fatalities, right? So they will announce these numbers at the end of the climbing season, which is the middle of July. And usually in a good climbing year, we end up in about the 50th percentile. If half of the people that give it a try will reach the summit, that makes us very happy now. When you drove to our boat, you came by the airport, you probably noticed there are several flight services available. They offer scenic flights that go out to the Alaska Range, but they also drop the climbers off at the base camp on the Talkeetna Glacier at 7,200 feet. From there, the climbers make their way all the way up to the summit. It takes the average climber about 10 to 14 days to do that round trip. And there are lots of interesting accomplishments on Denali. If you're interested in mountaineering, I highly recommend visit the Walter Harper Ranger Station here in Talkeetna or the Talkeetna Historical Society Museum. They have a great exhibit on mountaineering. And the museum also shows a short 20-minute video about climbing on Denali. It's really interesting. Now, when you came on board, I looked around and I saw there are, I think, a few potential new record holders for the youngest climber on the boat, right? I'm gonna ask you, can you tell me how old you are?
12.
12. What about you? 14. These ladies back there, can you tell me how old you are? Awesome. Now, I hate to tell you guys this, but none of you can set a new record here. Youngest climber to ever set foot on the summit of Denali was a local boy here from Talkeetna. Galen Johnston is his name, and Galen was 11 years old when he summited Denali. Of course, he climbed up there with his parents, right? His dad is a famous mountaineer for our area, Dave Johnston. Dave was in the first successful winter ascent that reached the summit of Denali, and that was in 1967. One member out of that expedition, Art Davidson is his name, he wrote a book about their climb. The title of the book is Minus 148 degrees Fahrenheit. That tells you a little bit about what these people have to face when they go up Denali, right? Youngest female climber at this time is a shared title between two girls, both from Alaska, 12 years old. And the oldest climber is also a gentleman here from Alaska, Mr. Tom Choate from Anchorage. Tom was just 2 weeks shy of his 79th birthday when he summited Denali. And that was the 5th time that he has summited Denali. Last time he did that for the 100-year centennial of mountaineering on Denali in 2013. That is pretty amazing, right? Now, of course, we all know there always has to be somebody that is the fastest, right? Have you heard about the fastest climb of Denali, anybody? No? I told you on average it takes 10 to 14 days. What do you think? Fastest climb? So you heard about it, right? 11 hours, 10 hours and 14 minutes. From the base camp to the summit and back down. That was a gentleman from California, Jack Kinsley is his name. He set that record in 2023 when he was 26 years old. He's a former Navy SEAL. Yes, sir.
You heard this marathon now? That's very wrong. That's different than the one you're talking about here?
Yeah. That's different. Mount Marathon is in Seward, and that's a hill compared to Denali.
Elevation of Mount Marathon is only about 4,000 feet.
Yeah. So
They run that in like 45 minutes. Yeah.
Jack Kunzle, after he summited at Denali, 2 days later he ran Mount Marathon and he won. It's pretty amazing.
A little cash out.
Any other questions about this so far?
Coming down harder than going up?
Well, it depends on, a lot of the professional mountain runners, they are called, they try to ski as much down as possible. Yeah. All right. Anything to add here?
No, I don't think so. But I want you to look over at the banks first and notice the scarring on the trees. See some of the cottonwoods that have big scars on the base of them? That's all ice damage. Now in the fall, yes, ice damage. So in the fall, the glaciers stop giving off the extra runoff. These rivers will start to drop in volume. They'll lose about 2/3 of their volume. And then just before they freeze up, they get crystal clear. All that sediment, that silt will settle to the bottom. And all throughout this river, you can just see the bottom. You can see all the river rocks. And then it starts to freeze. And once this river freezes, it's frozen from bank to bank, anywhere from 3 to 4, some areas 5 foot thick. Average depth on the Talkeetna River is about 6 feet. So there's always a stream underneath all that ice. Now usually by mid-December, we can come out and play on these rivers. There's some areas of Alaska that they actually plow roads on their rivers. But we don't do that in this area. We just use them recreationally. So we snow machine, cross-country ski. I run dogs in the winter, so I load my dogs up in the dog truck and bring them up here, and we'll cruise up 30, 40 miles on the river and camp out and come back. So it's quite the winter wonderland on our river system. But about mid-April, things start to change. The glaciers will start giving extra runoff, and that'll put water back into the river, and it starts to put pressure on all that ice, and it's pushing up on all that ice. Eventually, it's breaking it apart. When it does, it starts to come down the river, and it will meet sections of the river that hasn't quite got ready to break up yet. And so then it starts to stack up on itself. And this ice can sometimes stack up 20, 30 feet tall. It gets really, really high. It starts to create an ice dam. And when that happens, all that water behind the ice dam, because the dam is doing what a dam does, stopping the flow of water, we have extensive flooding. We get lots of flooding out here during our spring breakup. Eventually, the ice can't hold back the water any longer, and that ice dam will give way. So if you can imagine a flash flood, and at the head of it, huge chunks of ice. And we're talking like the size of cars. And it's very devastating. So you can see all the ice damage along here. You can see the trees pushed over and the bark removed. But that's just a little bit of the damage that happens. If you look over here to the right, notice that this entire front of this island does not have any trees on it. But if you look towards the back of the island, there's trees. Well, this little island used to be covered in trees until the ice came. And so year after year, it just kept scouring that island and taking off more and more of the trees. But I always like to say Mother Nature is wicked cool how she knows how to keep everybody and kind of happy, okay? All of our wildlife happy. Our moose love habitat like that because when the trees disappear, it gives way for barclay willow, which moose love to eat. So this is a great place for us to catch sights of cows when they have their calves in the spring, usually the first couple weeks of May. And they'll swim across to these little islands like this where it's abundant in barclay willow. And it's a great place to have a little extra protection from bears. And yes, bears can swim, but they're just not too bright. They're gonna stand on this bank, they're gonna see a moose on that bank, they're gonna jump in the river thinking they're gonna swim straight across to the moose, but guess what they're gonna do? Mama and baby are safe. So that's just a little added protection, just for our mama moose. But year to year, we never know how bad the ice breakup's gonna be. There's not a lot that we can do except have fun with it, which is exactly what we do. And the best way to have fun with the ice is to bet on when it's going to break up. Has anybody heard of the Nanana Ice Classic? Oh, let me tell you. I haven't won, but it's on my bucket list. I just gotta get the right month. Anyway, the Nanana Ice Classic happens just south of Fairbanks in the little town of Nanana, and it's on the Tanana River. They put a tripod on that river and they connect a clock to it. And then everybody in the state, and you don't have to be a resident, you can play online, hint, pay $3 and you pick the right month, that's very important, I did not, the right day, the right hour, the right minute. And when the clock is tripped, you have a winner. This year it tripped on April 27th at 3:56 p.m. 10 people split a pot of over $211,000. That's a heck of a return on a $3 investment. And that, my friends, is what we do during breakup. That and a lot of ice watching. Anybody have any questions about our ice breakup, our rivers, anything else we've talked about so far? All right. We're going to continue on. Our next stop, we're going to tell you a little bit about the history of homesteading. I want you to look on the right side of the bank. Do you see Mike's boat? Okay. So Mike's not home this morning because usually his boat's over there. We always know when Mike's home. But you're going to see his place. When we turn around this little bend right here, you're going to see his place on the right. We're going to tell you pieces of property up there. And Alice does an excellent job of teaching you all about the flora and the fauna in the area. It's going to take us just a few minutes. There are some outhouses up above if you would like to check those out. It's on your bucket list while you're in Alaska. I have to say we have the state's best outhouses. When you unload, you can leave anything on the boat that you don't want to take with you. Don't leave Alice. Stay right up there at the top of the landing until she gets up there. And it's going to take us just a few minutes.
Just a second.
No, that's not.
Alrighty, folks, you are ready to load.
Me siento como el guía. ¿Ah? Bueno, aquí estamos en el área de donde nos van a hablar. Les voy a pedir por favor que se sienten por aquí. Acá están los baños, las letrinas. Ahí tenemos un árbol preñado.
Como la de la gasolina.
No digas eso.
Así se veía.
Así se veía.
Ella estaba por parir, ¿oíste? Ya la barriga le estaba bajando.
Sí.
Esa es la que llaman que es como barriga de macho, que es como más bajita y redondita.
Una muchacha en un garaje tiene una barriga igual que la que tiene ese pavo.
So I stayed still, but I turned my camera.
Did you not read what I said? She told me.
La veré otra vez. ¿Qué? Tiro como con dos a lo mejor son venenosas.
You guys want to just spread out in this little clearing here for a minute until we have everybody together. There we go. So while we were traveling on the boat, you might on here this places that is chock full of all kinds of different minerals, really good fertilizer for the plants here. And as Holly said, now last year, my last trip I guided through here, big group of people, they chartered one of our 55 passenger boats for a family reunion. When I asked them that question, they told me, Alice, that is a sacrificial pig. They already had family members. We all have those kind of family members. Now, before I talk about the hole with the sticks, I want to talk about this whole setup here a little bit. I think when we started the tour out, Captain Holly mentioned to you that the indigenous people of the interior of Alaska are the Athabascans. The Athabascans have 11 different tribes. Our tribe are the Dena'ina. The Dena'ina were semi-nomadic. They traveled with the food source. So during the summer months, they followed the salmon migration that Holly was talking about. In the fall, they followed the caribou herds. During the winter months, they hunted moose and other animals. But what we are trying to show you here is a replicated Denina at the Baskin fish camp. So a fish camp would be where we just stopped, right there at the mouth of Chase Creek. Perfect location for a fish camp. And the native people had an interesting technique of catching their fish. Most cultures all over the world that depend on fish build fish weirs. So did the Denina. Most of the fish weirs that I have seen were built out of stone, out of rocks. The native people here used wooden poles that they stuck into the creek bed of those little Clearwater tributaries in the shape of a V with an opening at the point. So they basically built a large funnel, and they funneled hundreds of salmon through a really small area. With the poles, they entrapped those salmon against the bank of the creek where they could scoop them out of the water with nets. Once the salmon were caught, they cut them in half along the spine, left them attached by the tail, and by the tails they hung those fish over fish drying racks like the one we set up behind you there. And you can see underneath that fish drying rack there's a fire pit. There was a fire, but the fire was not to burn. Fire was for one, to preserve the fish, but also to keep all the flies and flying insects away from the fish. Once they come, lay eggs in your fish, you don't want to eat that anymore. But once those salmon were smoked and dried, that's where the hole with the sticks comes into play. This is a very basic refrigeration, food storage system. The native people dug those holes at least 4 feet deep because it's a lot cooler down there in the ground than it is on the surface. Then they lined the food pits with sticks. On top of the sticks, they would lay their salmon, another layer of sticks and salmon, and so on. The sticks are for air circulation. If you would lay your fish on top of each other, they get moldy and rot really quick. With the sticks in between, good airflow, nice and cool down there on the ground, fish stays fresh quite a bit longer that way. But we can all imagine that the smell of this delicious smoked salmon would attract about every critter in the neighborhood. Bears, wolves, coyotes, foxes, you name it. That's why the native people always kept these food pits really close to their encampments, so they could keep a close eye on the food supply. Now the little structure we see in the background there, they had several of those set up. We only built one, so you get an idea what it looked like. Looks like a lean-to type of structure, right? Some of you might have built something like that before. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, military, hunting camp. You remember with your lean-to type structure, you always want to build that with the back to where the wind is coming from. That way you can have a nice campfire in front of your structure, and when the wind blows, it blows over the top of your structure, blows the smoke from the fire away from you, but it creates a heat inversion. It pulls the heat from the fire into the structure, so you stay nice and warm in there without a front wall. Because you don't want a front wall, otherwise you can't keep an eye on your food supply. So it's a pretty ingenious little setup. Now I saw a lot of you admiring the antlers that we have laying around here, right? Do we have any hunters in our group today? Hunters. Hunters, 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 hunters. Seriously? No hunters? Be gentle with them. First day at a new job. There you go. So if a bear would wake up out of its den and there was any trapping going on in the vicinity, a bear would be able to smell that, follow that scent, which eventually would bring the bear to the trapline trail. Now in the automobile, slow machine, regardless of what you use, the trapline trail is nicely packed down. Lots of people have
so much for coming.
I hope you enjoyed the tour. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank y'all for coming.
No bananas.
Not so